Yahuah. Thank you for proving the enchantments don't work. Thank you for proving that attack against the right frontal lobe and right frontal cortex, it doesn't work. Thank you for proving that people trying to be in the place of Elohim, utilizing the right frontal lobe, trying to get the focus and trying to get people to worship them there, that it doesn't work. Thank you for proving that the politicians trying to do that, the white ones here in Delaware trying to do that it doesn't work. Thank you for proving that the military experiment that they're doing. Remember the guy who said he was trying to take over the minds of people? Remember the military experiment? Remember the military personnel and people that have reached out? Thank you that enchantment, Elohim calls it an enchantment, but they call it a military experiment. Thank you for pointing out that they tried to attack and direct it at the right frontal lobe, right frontal cortex, but that it doesn't work. Thank you for revealing the man who was like, you serve me, trying to. That's what they try to do. Their experiment, and it doesn't work. Thank you for proving that there's nothing that can overthrow Elohim. Thank you for proving who the politicians are that are a part of such things. Thank you for proving the military individuals who are a part of such things. Oh my goodness, thank you for showing the background of so many of these men who worked in the United States Air Force. And so many others too. And isn't that quite funny? It's not quite funny, but like, oh, thank you for revealing the things at the base, the different bases here in this state. But like, thank you for revealing, the interesting fact of that about Georgetown, about Dover, about these other places and things like that, considering other military families, considering other relatives that pop back up that are, serving. And thank you for pointing out, and showing in this state in different places how service members who have been treated, how service members who have been faithful to you have been treated, Elohim. But those service members who have been taken advantage of, service members who have been taken advantage of, who haven't been veterans and stuff, who haven't been treated right. But those who when they get, it's like there's a thing here with all the people in the state. I've seen it with police officers. I've seen it with politicians. I've seen it with state representatives, city council members. I've seen it with the mayor and the governor. They all act in that Delaware way, in that old boys club kind of way. I've seen it with other officers and other institutions, and they all have this way of operating that they do those intimidation tactics and all of that kind of stuff. And that's why I said that's where that slave mindset, those slave behaviors, and it's not just men, it's women too. And it is, yes, a lot of those people in those positions predominantly white, but there's also individuals who are representative for the Senate and other things like that. Obviously, we know the history of the Biden administration and things that transpired with that. Obviously, there's individuals for the Democratic Party that are believers, but unfortunately, you have shown over and over again the majority, and that's why you allowed us to go in those to those organizations in those places and to see how it operates, to see how the people behave, to see how they try to shun people out of public meetings, and that's not just politics, you know what I mean? That's not just service, it matters in service, and we've seen, how service members, retired service members, widows and widowers, their testimonies with regards to whether they were firefighters, cops, and different things like that. And so we've seen that and we've understood, and you gave us those experiences when we were even children, and we witnessed that, in other states too. But unfortunately, just like we've seen the homelessness in other states and other things, it's unfortunate that they still continue to act as though they're God. That's why, you were revealing they're trying to take the position of God in people's lives, and in a place where they don't have the authority. They even connected us to people who were military that worked in education, and to the point of people speaking like, "Oh, she upset the wrong some elite people," and they're upset about it, and it's just like, and there was another guy who said, "Oh, come and be elite like me," and just different things like that, but to the point of their behaviors. Not just the behavior, it's the conduct. The way that they are trying to put themselves in a position of God in people's lives and decisions, to the point of, hey, I want to show you I can take over your technology. I can control when you have service and when you don't. When you have a signal on your phone, or when you have an internet signal and when you don't. I can control outages in your region and stuff. I can control what I spray in the sky. I can control flying military planes and choppers and things over areas. I can control when I let there be big corporations and Amazons and things. I can control when I allow to incorporate from other countries in this small little state. I can control the influx of people from other countries over the years, and then not just the recent of immigrants from Hispanic descent or Latin descent countries, but from European countries and different things like that. So, and Africa and other places too. But Yahuah, in the way of saying, well, it's just progress. It's progress. We're building up this place. We're bringing in new stores. We're bringing in, supporting small businesses. Remember that initiative? Well, where are the small businesses being supported? Or are they being pushed out? Where are the residents being supported? Or are they being pushed out? Are they being pushed out in favor of influx of people from out of state? Influx of people from other countries? Are they being pushed out in support of Amazon and other companies taking over? Are they being in support of other big box places and Targets and grocery stores? But then they're like, well, that's progress. The development of a bunch of developed housing neighborhoods. And what is the majority of those people that live in those neighborhoods? It's not a bad, those things aren't bad. But that's why people can say, well, in the name of progress, or in the name of revitalization, or there's this or that being done. And of course, that's not just one political party and individual working on that, or it's not that has just happened in a 5-year or 10-year period, or that the vision casting hasn't been for centuries. Nonetheless, centuries, even though they go 25 years, 50 years, 10 years, 5-year, different things like that. But it's progress. Or a lot of people say, well, you don't know what the impact that you're having on people by sharing these things, the impact that it's making federally, the impact that it's having locally on these officials, or the impact that it's having on the everyday person, people who are related to you. And then you get a lot of people who are saying, well, we're tired of compromising on positions and things as well. Or you get a lot of people who are saying, we understand, we're with you. Like, not the people who talking about, not the politicians, not the ones lying who created those organizations and those programs about solidarity. We're not in solidarity with them. And we're not supporting them, and we're not doing research for them. And we're not doing the work for them. That's why I said I hope they get what they need, because they're part of doing the enchantments. That woman who's doing that program and stuff, she's a part of doing enchantments. And so that's why we don't support them. They're all part of the same team. There's the same selections. They select their cabinet and they made their picks. And thank Yahuah that they put it publicly in publications. of who their connections and their friends and stuff are. But anyway, I just yeah, I just hear, you get that everyday person who's like, we're tired of the compromise too. You get other people who are in those positions that they're tired of it too, or different things like that. But it's equivalent to the Psalms. It's equivalent to the Psalms. And yeah, you don't have, just because you have um, military families, you don't have the right to just control them. You don't have the right, just because you have military bases, to just do experiments. You don't have the right, just because you're representatives and politicians, to do experiments to control people. You don't have the right, just because you are um, corporate individuals, or because you are rich, or because you are, we'll call them rich, they're not wealth, I would say. Wealth comes with you, Elohim. But just because you are Amazon, or big companies, or big names, or work in education, or own education, own media companies, own production companies, own um, internet companies, or internet options, or technological resources, doesn't mean, just because you get in with the political crowd, and I built my network because I'm building riches. I built my network around all of these high connections that I made through politics, that I made through the Air Force, that I made through becoming a cop or a police officer, that I made through working for the state, that I made through business. And I've made all of these connections so that I could become rich, not wealthy, but rich. And to be millionaire, to be a billionaire, I don't know if any of them are billionaire status, but I do know others who are, obviously. But to be millionaires, and to do a number of things, and so and so and so and so is a billionaire, definitely not trillionaires. And I'm not talking about Amazon. I'm talking about these other people who are locally, obviously, but and including Amazon, because they made agreements with them, or the pharmaceutical companies, or the drug pushers, meaning the drug sorcery companies. um, like the history here with DuPont's, Nemours, and all that. Not Nemours, but Chemours, and different things like that. Chemical properties, chemical engineering, and different things like that. Pharmaceuticals and things like that. Anyway, what are you known for? Hospitals, care, law, but how's the legal system here? What is the history of the legal system? Different things like that. So anything, we don't support that. I'm not in solidarity with those people. I'm just not. Because they are the ones who are doing enchantments. They're literally the ones who are doing enchantments, even down to the people down below. There are people who are not a part of it, obviously. There always is, right? Look at every historical account. Every historical account, even biblical. Was Judas not a part of Messiah's group? You know the interesting thing, that organization about music and publications. Oh yeah, publications. Remember his comment was, "Oh, I specifically chose 12 of you, and one of you. Well, who's the Judas? Oh, you're gonna be the Judas because you're not gonna be in agreement with any of these things." Or remember the guy who does business and care, and there are a bunch of CPAs and different things within the North Carolina Capitol, and people wanted to hide at moments where, like, I'll be your sugar daddy, and all of these kinds of things, unrighteous stuff, which is why Elohim moved us away from certain places and spaces. Yesterday, people got mad and was just like, she just missed out on a great opportunity. It's never a great opportunity to shake hands with the devil. It's never a great opportunity to work with people who operate as Satan. That's why we don't like the way they operate. They scheme. They literally do enchantments. Elohim, through all of this, over a year's time, has revealed the different kinds of enchantment. There was people that they were talking about, sorcerers, African witchcraft, Caribbean witchcraft, people who used crystals, people who did tarot reading, people who were mediums, people who were, they tried all kinds of different stuff. As the word says, right? They tried all kinds of things to take Messiah out. They did enchantments. They did spells. That's when they started doing those tales of a tick-tock goes the clock. They were doing word spells. They were doing different trying to enchantments. They were like, we'll see enchantments. Like, they were doing ones that, smelled like cotton candy. They were doing ones that smelled like cigarette smoke. And guess what? There were other people they were doing these things on in other locations at other times that were witnesses to these enchantments. And I was just like, it's like when the storm rolls in here, the tornadoes. Like, how often do we have that kind of stuff? And it was dark and obviously looked like the ocean, but after each one of those things, Elohim gave us the witness. We look for the signs of the Ruach and rejoice, as the psalm says, and the rainbow in the sky. And the other one, the storm before that, the double rainbow. Remember when he sent his legion of messengers from the Shemaim? That's the very same day where we watched Elohim ascend several of his messengers from the Shemaim. And then the storm came, and then the double rainbow. So anyway, it's funny. It's funny how that's what I was listening to from the Psalms, is they're remembering from the Psalms of Elohim is on the throne. Oh, and then other people would get upset and be egotistical to the point of like trying to remember. They were like, you serve us. No, we don't serve you. You are not on the throne. You're not on the throne. You're not in the driver's seat. You're not Elohim. You're not Elohim. And you know what Elohim did to confirm it? He was like, this is my job. And you're clean. And he confirmed all of this stuff. And that's why I was just like, I laughed. I said, Father, they can't hear you. They can't hear you. They can't hear you, Elohim. And woe to those ones who can't. Woe to those who are not his sheep. Woe to those who are not his children. They got upset that we call them a servant. They try to, they try to retaliate. They try to retaliate. But they can't overthrow Elohim. They can't overthrow Elohim. They're like, oh, where are you getting messages? Like, people don't send emails and all kinds of other stuff. But also people who are in belief, they know. You can recognize when somebody's done an enchantment or a spell. Just like when when we traveled all around the world, and they were doing that at schools and stuff. Around that, not just the time of Halloween where there would be mediums and stuff into schools. But there's also other people who are witness to it, who've done it, or whose background. I know people with that background, they've endured that, or that was their culture, growing up. So they know about the Caribbean. They know about African. They know about Latin and Hispanic. They know about Irish. They know about Polish. They know about Russian. They know about German. They know about military. Oh, I know plenty of people from the military. They know about those things. They know about the Pentagon. All of those things. Different places and spaces. Military. They know about it. They know about intelligence agencies. They know about it, or we've encountered these things. I'm saying that they, because we know we've encountered stuff firsthand, but nonetheless, it's not about that. It wasn't about that, and it was never about that. It's always about the Father. Everything starts and ends with Him. It starts and it ends with Him. He's on the throne. He's Elohim. He's Almighty. And His cause is always fulfilled. His work is always fulfilled. So when somebody was saying to me, I'm laying it all on the line. I'm laying it all on the line. Oh, he gave up everything. Did they really? No, they did not. They didn't. And I said, you prove the more that you try to intimidate, they do the same things. Has anyone ever studied psychology? Has anyone ever studied the history of slave movements and stuff? Oh, remember the person who read that book, How to what's the name of nation? It's the same thing that they do. They try to enslave the minds. How to enslave a people. That's what they do. We did these studies of psychology between the prison and prisoners. And we did the studies with people who were captive. It's the studies on enslavement and all kinds of stuff. They utilize the same thing. That's what I mean by that it is the plantation model. You know that it is historical enslavement models and bondage and captivity. It's that Elohim called this place Sodom. He also called it the belly of a beast. He also called it, he said, come out from among her, referencing Babylon. And that's the way that they've operated, as though they're building Babylon. Remember, they built in the Bible, in the scriptures, they were building the tower. It's not really called that. In the book, in the scriptures, they tried to, or the Sefer, or the Hebrew scriptures, you know what I mean? The word of Elohim. In that word of Elohim, they tried to build a Tower of Babel. And Elohim was never going to allow it to, because their objective was to overthrow Elohim. That's what they've been trying to do. That's what they've been trying to do physically and spiritually. And that's what they have said to me at times in retaliation of, you serve us. No, we don't. We don't. They've tried to overthrow Elohim. They've tried to take his place. They're trying to be power where they're not power. They don't have power. They're called the powerless pestilence, but they're trying to prove that they have power and authority and dominion where they don't have it. They were trying to find out things about the family, about history, about land, about just all kinds of stuff, because they are not the inheritors with Elohim's children. They're not. They are not the inheritors. They are not the heirs, and they don't have the birthright. And for some of the individuals that do, they are trying to overthrow that. That's what they've tried to do. But it's like the people we've seen pushed off of YouTube or leave kindly, or people who've been in journalism that they've been assaulted or attacked, or people who've been locally that have been intimidated in their businesses or their life and their family and things. It's a tactic they're trying to overthrow. At the core of things, it's not just about the physical. It's not just, they said to me, some man was like, it's just business. It's not really. When you're a believer, you know the reality is it's between the light, it's between life of Elohim and no life. You either have life in Elohim or you don't have life at all. Anything outside of him and anything without him is for naught. So that tried to overthrow that, they building their own Tower of Babel. It says the rich man, let's read it because it's so funny. It's so funny. Now, this doesn't mean there are people who have a mind of Elohim who are billionaires, who are very, not just rich in funds, but wealthy, that do serve Elohim. How well we know them historically, but there's often the people that you don't know. Sometimes it could be cattle ranchers. Anyway, herders, shepherds, people that work in a way. There were people that prayed for us, like, I hope Allah gives you and your family everything you need. Anyway, is it this one? It's so funny. It might be a proverb. It's a proverb. It says, it'll be in his own tower. I was trying to find 1811. The rich man's wealth. You see how it separates that? The rich man wealth separated. The rich man's wealth is his strong city, and like a high wall in his own imagination. It's like a high wall in his own imagination. Remember the parable of the man who stored up? And Elohim said to him, "You fool, tonight your life will be required of you." I remember the Ecclesiastes where it talks about the ones who in the Ecclesiastes where it talks about the ones who store up and different things like that. But Elohim has an appointed time. It's a time for war. There is a time for fighting. There is a time for war. There is a time for peace. There is a time for the innocent moments, soft and gentle. There is a time for those seasons of birthing, seasons of planting, seasons of harvesting. But anyway, it's funny because Yahuah was like, your wealth is not wealth. Your riches are not a wall. Your riches is not a tower of Babel. Your empire, your Tower of Babel will crumble. The riches are not going to save. They are not a wall that have protected you in a time of not just a famine or anything like that, but they are not your salvation. And that's why it says the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil, because it brings in a lot of things. It brings in a lot of futility. Ecclesiastes talks about futility. It brings in futility. It brings in worthlessness, because it says everything without Elohim is for naught. And it also says it's worthless. It lacks. There's no good thing in it. Riches don't mean the good. Elohim is the good. So if Elohim is not in it, there's no good. Anyway, so it's funny. Anything you do, that's why it's like everything we do, it should be unto Elohim, and it's supposed to be unto Elohim, but you do things it's not unto Elohim, it's for naught. There's no good thing in it. Messiah talked about man not being wholly bad, not being wholly good, or being wholly evil. But it says there's one good, it's Elohim. If Elohim is not in it, it is for naught. So the Tower of Babel, they were building so they could overthrow Elohim. This is what one of the people talking about in the retaliation yesterday. They want to, and even today, like earlier today, about serving them. We don't serve you, and I won't serve you. Just because you retaliate because you don't like to hear the truth. Elohim is the only good. If you don't have the Elohim, there's no good in it. You building your Tower of Babel to overthrow Elohim is for naught. You doing military experiments on people to overthrow Elohim is for naught. You doing experiments thinking you're going to control people, trying to go against do enchantments against their mind, frontal lobe, right cortex, right brain, anything like that. It is for naught. That's why Elohim told us all our people will be saved, and all his people will be saved. And he's moving his gathering. Even the online, right? Even what he was showing us too about now, all people who are not who look or appear non-melanated are not against Elohim. But there are even people on YouTube here, and we mentioned some of them before, and they're like, keep people's name in your mouth for my family and suffer. No, or who have done enchantments too. And see, we're going to do an Aussie takeover, or this and that. No, Elohim, you also cannot steal the identity of Elohim's people. It's like you can't steal a message from Elohim's daughters because he put a lot of his daughters on there. And yes, a lot of them are of different ethnic melanated descents. And you're not just going to take from their messages and use them for these, for lack of a better term, white males and white females. You're not going to pass it over as though the majority of the world isn't melanated, of melanated ethnicities. The people started out melanated. Adam was melanated. Asians are melanated. Different, every single country in every place, except for maybe those descendants of Ifef, were melanated descent. That's not the important thing. Skin tone is not the important thing. The important thing is Elohim with it or not? But when people talk about the whitewashing, or when Messiah said, you whitewash tombs, because he was not, he was a melanated individual. It says it in a word, what his skin looked like, what his eyes looked like, what his hair looked like. Those things matter because truth matters. You know the truth sets you free. So when you are trying to overthrow and create this illusion of authority, we're not teaching that from your classes. We're not teaching that from your classes. That's not the importance. The importance is, are you with Elohim or not? That's where the slavery and the bondage came. Remember, Ishmael was brother with Isaac. And so the descendants are cousins. Remember, Israel and Mitzrayim, some of the individuals, it was like they were fighting with their cousins. Weren't they both a melanated people? Yes, they were both a melanated from melanated regions of the world. And now again, it's not the point of the skin tone, but are you with Elohim or are you not? So when they're trying to overthrow Elohim like the Tower of Babel, they don't. It always gets destroyed because no one can overthrow Elohim. We rejoice for that. They can't overthrow Elohim. The main point is you can't overthrow Elohim. You can't take his seat. You can't take his position. You can't take his word and his prophecies. It doesn't return void. Rejoice.